Hello, my name is Lisel Alcala, and today I will be discussing the key elements responsible for downward trend in American corrections. But first, I want to start off by discussing the problems faced by corrections. It has been a while that the jails and prisons suffer from overcrowding, which in turn impacts the following problems faced within the correctional institution. The first problem I'll discuss is mental health evaluations. Mental health evaluations are not always being conducted while being processed, due to wanting to process inmates as quickly as possible and not being trained to identify inmates who suffer from mental illness. The next problem is special populations. There are several special populations within the correctional system, such as females, elderly, LGBT, people who suffer from mental illness, and others who suffer from addiction. Oftentimes, these special populations are subject to being sexually assaulted and/or violently assaulted by other inmates, even by correctional officers. Understanding these populations can be difficult for correctional officers and other inmates, and it could lead to placing inmates from special populations into administrative segregation. Correctional officers may think that they're helping special population offender by isolating them from the general population, but they are mistakenly punishing an offender and affecting their psychological state. All of these can be caused by a lack of training or not having the appropriate staff on board, such as medical professionals to diagnose inmates with mental health problems or even motivated employees. In addition to not receiving appropriate training, correctional officers undergo a series of stressful situations during work, such as the lack of personal safety and the safety of others, overcrowding, and offenders' attitudes, to name a few, which affect their willingness to work in corrections. All of these problems lead us to the vicious cycle of offenders reoffending and returning to jail or prison. This creates overcrowding in jail and affects the resources and budget available to the offenders, as well as it adds additional pressure on the correctional officers and correctional staff. Let's take a look at potential solutions. In order to keep the downward trend in American corrections, we must first start from the beginning. What I mean by that is we must focus on what causes people to commit crimes and what can we as a society do to help reduce the crimes. We can start by focusing on juveniles who show signs of deviancy and offer counseling or programs that will help them off the streets and instead engage in extracurricular activities. As for people being processed into correctional facilities, it is very important that they receive a thorough medical evaluation so that if they need to be placed in a mental health hospital, they receive that treatment. Correctional institutions should house at least separate wings for those who are considered to be special population to protect those offenders as well as the rest of general population. Correctional institutions should also offer counseling and medical care to all offenders, especially those who are in special populations. Training of correctional officers and correctional staff is very important. Correctional officers and correctional staff need to be trained in how to reduce elevated situations and how to identify those who need medical attention. Training should also be continuous because not only does it help correctional officers do their job better, but it also makes them feel valued as employees because it gives them room for growth within their career. To manage stress on the job, correctional officers should find healthy ways such as healthy eating habits or exercising in which to relax from the stress caused from their jobs. In addition to that, the Department of Corrections and the Federal Bureau of Prisons should also create more jobs and increase the pay of the correctional officers and staff. This in turn will help the correctional job seem more competitive compared to others. Management positions need to be held by people who are good leaders and people who are appropriately trained and are motivated about their jobs and are willing to promote the well being of offenders. Re-entry programs that focus on helping offenders transition into the community and life outside of prison are necessary to help make sure that the offenders do not find themselves in the vicious cycle of recidivism. These programs should focus on providing any assistance for those who suffer from addiction, and they should also serve as a resource for those who suffer from mental health problems. In addition to mental health, the programs should help offenders by providing resources in affordable housing and obtaining and keeping a job. Offenders, especially juvenile offenders, could benefit from having a mentorship program to help teach them ways to stay out of trouble. Overall, these are some ways in which we can help the downward trend in American corrections. Thank you.